Om Jnana-timirandasya Yatara Shalakaya Chakshur-militanjena Tasmai
Sri Gurave Namah.
So we are continuing with our Bhagavad Gita reading
Wow.
session. And so we reached around verse 11 last week. So we're going to pick up there. So I'll just begin with, we can hear those first 10 verses again. And so last week we kind of had a bit of setting the scene, right? Reminding ourselves of the background of Bhagavad Gita again. And we ended on this beautiful point that our Gurudev made in regards to this phrase, the 11th verse of the first chapter, Bhishmam evabhirakshantu. Everyone protect Bhishma, right? Duryodhana is saying, even though Bhishma is not actually so, his heart is not with Duryodhana. Duryodhana is accepting the circumstances and, working with Bhishma. And our Gurudev made that point that we may not all get along, but we'll try to come together for common cause, right? The service of Guru and Gauranga. So we will pick up today. I'll start playing these verses. Okay, so starting here.
Sri Guru Gauranga Ujayata Srimad Bhagavad Gita Padhamutthaya Shaunya Darshan Dhritarashtra Uvacha Dharma Kshetri Kurukshetri Samaveta Jujutsava Mamaka Pandavashchaiva Kimap Kurbata Sanjaya Sanjaya Uvacha Drishtatu Pandavanikam Murhang Durchadhanastada Acharyamupasangamya Rajavachanamabrabit Pasyaitang Panduputranam Acharyamahatim chamum Murhang Drupadaputrena Tavasishyena dhimata Atra Shura Maheswasa Bhimarjuna Samajudhi Yuyudhana Viratascha Drupadascha Maharatha Drishtaketuscha Kitana Kashirajascha Virjaman Purujit Kunti Bhojascha Shaibhascha Narapungava Judhamanuscha Vikranta Uttamaujascha Virjaman Saubhadru Draupadiyascha Sarva Eva Maharatha Asmakantu Visishtaji Tan Nibodha Dijottama Nayaka Mama Sainyasya Sangartham Tan Bravimite Bhavan Bhishyascha Karnascha Kripascha Samitinjaya Ashwathama Vikarnascha Saumadattir Jayadratha Annecha Bhava Shura Madarthi Takta Jivita Nana Shastra Praharana Sarve Yuddha Vidharada Aparjaptam Tadasmakam Balang Bhisma Bhirakhitam Parjaptam Tidameti Sam Balang Bhima Bhirakhitam Ayaneshu Cha Sarveshu Yatha Bhagam Avasita Bhismameva Bhirakhantu Bhavantaha Sarva Evahi Tasya Sanjanayan Harsang Kuruvidha Pitamaha Singhanadang Virina Dochair Sankham Dazanu Pratapavan Tata Sankhascha Bhirjascha Panavanaka Gomukha Sahasvaibhadbhahananta Sasabdastumulu Bhavat Tata Setrir Hair Yukte Mahati Sandane Sthito Madhava Pandavas Chaiva Dibbau Shankho Pradadhanatu Panchajannang Rishikeshu Devadattang Dhananjaya Poundrang Dadhano Mahasankhang Bhima-karma Brikodara Ananta Vijayang Raja Kunti Putru Yudhishthira Nukulah Sahadevascha Sughosha Manipuspako Kasyascha Parameswasa Shikhandi-cha Maharatha Dhrishtadyumno Viratascha Satyakischa Parajita Drupado Draupadeyascha Sarvasa Prithivipate Saubhadrascha Mahabahu Shankhan Dadhnu Prithak Prithak Saghosha Dhatrashtanang Hridayani Padarayat Navascha Prithivinchaiva Tumulabhu Nunadayan Atha Bhavasthitan Drishtva Dhartarashtan Kapidhaja Pravritte Shastra Sampate Dhanuruttamma Pandava Rishikesang Tada Bhakkam Idam Aha Mahipate.
Okay, so we have listened up to the 20th verse of the first chapter, and we can go back and pick up from verse 11 in our reading. So let's chant these let's chant these verses together. Ayaneshu cha sarveshu yatha bhagam avashtitaha vishmameva birakshantu bhavanta sarva eva hi tasya sanjanayan harsham guru vidya pitamaha simhanada minadyochai shankam dadmo pratapavam तथा शङ्गाश्च भैर्यश्च पानवानकगोमुखः सहैस्सवा यहन्यन्त सा शब्दास्तु मूलोऽभवत् तथा श्रुतेर्हयैर्युक्ते महति स्यन्दने स्थितो माधवः पाण्डवश्चैव दिव्यो शङ्को प्रदद्मतुः पञ्चजन्यं ऋषिकेशो Devadatam Dhananjaya Kaunjam Dadmo Mahashankam Bhimakarma Viprodaha Ananta Vijayam Rajakunti Putro Yudhishthiraha Nakula Sahadevascha Sugosha Mani Pushpako Ashyascha Paramishwasa Sukhandicha Maharataha Shishtadyumna Viratascha Satyakischa Parajitaha Upado Jopadeyascha Sarvasha Prithivipate Sobhajascha Mahabahu Shankandadmu Pitak Pitak Sagosho Dartarashtanam Hridayani Vyadarayat Nabhascha Prithivinchaiva Tumulo Bhyanunadayam Bhatta Vyavastitan Drishtva Dartarashtran Kapidvajaha Pravite Shastra Sampate Dhanordhyamya Pandavaha Rishikesham Tadavakyam Vidamaha Mahipate. Okay, this one's 3 lines, this verse. Okay, well, let's go through and read those translations. So this verse 11, we had some discussion of last week. Now take up your posts at the strategic points of the formation in support of Bhishma. Then with a war cry, like the roar of a lion, the venerable elder Bhishma loudly blew his conch shell to encourage Duryodhana. At once there arose a tumultuous vibration of conch shells, kettle drums, hand drums, bugles, and the resounding of many instruments. Vyasadev's painting a vivid scene for us, right? Making us feel like we're present on the battlefield. Then Lord Shri Krishna and Arjuna in a magnificent chariot, drawn by white horses, blew their divine conch shells. Rishikesh blew his conch shell Panchajanya. Rishikesh is Krishna, another name for Krishna, master of the senses. Dhananjaya, another name for Arjuna. Dhananjaya, conqueror of wealth. Dhananjaya sounded his, the Devadatta. It's very nice. You see that all the everyone has their own conch shell, and they all have their own names also. Right? Everything is personal in the Vedic conception. And Bhimsen, the performer of mighty tasks, the conch shell Pondra. This Bhimsen is also Bhima, right? One of the Pandavas. King Yudhisthira, the son of Kunti, blew the Ananta Vijay, while Nukul and Sahadev blew the conch shell Sugosha and Mani Pushpaka. O Lord of the earth, the skilled archer Kashiraj, the great warrior Shikandi, Jishtadyumna, King Virata, the unconquerable Satyaki, King Drupada, the sons of Draupadi, and the mighty son of Subhadra, Abhimanyu, all blew their conch shells. Resounding throughout the land and heavens, the tremendous vibration of those conch shells pierced the hearts of the sons of Dhritarashtra. So this is describing, right, everyone on the side of the Pandavas, right? And this conch, it's one of the significances of the conch is it's like a symbol of victory. I mean, just hearing the sound of the conch, you have that feeling. It's a very powerful, striking, uplifting, auspicious sound. And our Gurudev, he actually made this comment on this verse here, saying, Vyasadeva is writing this, and Vyasadeva is like even before the battle has begun, he's indicating the victory of the Pandavas, right? Because he's staying here from the very start. He's describing, this victorious conch blowing of the Pandavas' side, and Dhritarashtra and his sons, their hearts are pierced by this. It's like ominous for them, almost like they know, right? They already know it's over for them. O king, as the battle was about to commence, Arjuna, whose chariot was adorned with the flag of Hanuman, seeing Duryodhana and his army poised for battle, took up his bow and said to Sri Krishna. So remember, this is Dhritarashtra's, what is his name? I forget his name now. Dhritarashtra's like chariot driver, attendant. What is his name again? He's describing the scene, right? Through this mystic vision that he's been blessed with. He's describing to Dhritarashtra. Sanjaya, right? Sanjaya. So this is Sanjaya speaking to King Dhritarashtra in the palace, and he's describing this scene. And then later, Vyasadeva is putting this into writing. Or before. Actually, everything moves in cycles. This conception of like linear time, beginning, middle, end, it doesn't really work like that. Sometimes things are written about before they happened. Okay, well, does anyone want to? I don't really have much to say on these verses, just kind of hearing the scene, description of the scene. Does anyone have any comments or questions before we go on to the next set of verses? And welcome to all those who have joined. I see Chintamani's with us, and Kelly's with us, and Scarlett's. And we've had a few others join. Shama Gopal joined, Danny joined, and I believe that's Axel with us too. Welcome everyone.
What's the meaning of the name of Arjuna's conch?
Well, we have a question here. What is the name of Arjuna's conch? What is the name? Deva Datta. Deva means God, gods, right? God. Deva's God. And then Datta, I'm not sure. One meaning of Datta can refer to like giving, but I'm not sure if that's the exact word that's here. I'll have to look that one up. I don't know if anyone in our group here knows the answer to that. Okay, then should we go on to the next 10 verses? So we're going to pick up from verse 21. So we'll hear our Gurudev chanting first. Let that divine vibration enter our heart.
अर्जुन उवाच सेनयोरुभयोर्मध्ये रथं स्थापयमेच्युत यावदेतान् निरीक्षेऽहं जद्धू कामान् अवस्थितान् क्वैर्मया सह योद्धव्यम् अस्मिन् रणसमुद्यमे यत्समानान् अवेक्षेऽहं जायतेऽत्र समागतः धार्तराष्ट्रस्य दुर्बुद्धेर्युद्धे प्रियचिकित्सवः संजय उवाच एवमुक्तो ऋषिकेशो गुडाकेशेन भारत सेनयोरुभयोर्मध्ये स्थापयित्वा रथोत्तमम् भीष्मद्रोणः प्रमुखतः सर्वेषां च महीक्षिताम् उवाच पार्थ पश्यैतान् समवेतान् कुरुनिति तत्रापश्यत् स्थितान् पार्थ पितॄन् अथ पितामहान् आचार्यान् मातुलान् भ्रातॄन् पुत्रान् पौत्रान् सखींस्तथा श्वशुरान् सुहृदश्चैव सेनयोरुभयोरपि तान् समीक्ष्य स कौन्तेयः सर्वान् बन्धुरवस्थितान् कृपया परयाविष्टो विषिदन्निदमब्रवीत् अर्जुन उवाच दृष्टे मान् सजनान् कृष्ण जुजुत्सुन् समवस्थितान् सीदन्ति मम गात्राणि मुखं च परिशुष्यति वेपथुश्च शरीरे मे रोमहर्षश्च जायते गाण्डिवं संसते हस्ता तच्चैव परिदच्छते न च शक्नोम्यवस्थातुं भ्रमतीव च मे मनः निमित्तानि च पश्यामि विपरीतानि केशव.
Okay, so let's go back and chant those verses together, 21 to 30. Shravan and Kirtan, hearing and chanting, this is our process. So we're hearing this description, right, of Arjuna entering the scene. And what was it that we read before? Krishna and Arjuna, magnificent chariot, blowing their conch shells. And now Arjuna is striking up the conversation. Arjuna uvacha Sinayor Ubayor Madhye Ratam Stapayamechyuta Yavadetan Nidiksheham Yodukamanavastitan Kermaya Sahayodavyam Asmindana Samudyame Yochyamanana Viksheham Yayete Tra Samagataha Tartarashtrasya Durbuddhe Yudepriya Chikishavaha Sanjaya Vacha Evam Mukto Rishikesho Gurakeshena Bharata Senayor Ubayor Madhye Stapayitva Rathotamam Bhishma Jona Pramukata Sarveshan Chamahikshitam Uvacha Partha Pasyatam Samavetam Kuruniti Tatra Pasyat Stitan Partha Pitranata Pitamahan Achayan Matulam Bratrim Putram Potran Sakimstata Shashuran Suridas Chaiva Senayor Ubayorapi Tan Samiksha Sagunteya Sarvan Bandhu Navashtitan Vipaya Paraya Vishtu Vishidan Vidam Abravit Arjuna Vacha Vishtramam Swajanang Krishna Yuyutsun Samavashtitan Idanti Mama Gatlani Mukancha Padishushati Vipatuscha Sharire Me Roma Harshascha Jayate Kandivam Sram Sadehasta Tvakchaiva Paridayate Nacha Shoknum Yavastatam Ramati Vacha Me Manaha Nimitani tapashyami viparitani keshava. Okay, let's go back and read those translations. Chintamani, do you feel like reading today? We'll go from 21 to 30.
Dandavat Vishaka Didi.
And
Yes, I can read. Starting with 21.
that's right.
Oh Krishna, please place my chariot between the two armies so I may observe the warriors with whom I must contend on this battlefield and who have come to fight for the satisfaction of the wicked Duryodhan. Sanjay said, O descendant of Bharat, after the vigilant Arjuna spoke these words, Shri Krishna, the Lord of the perceptions of all living beings, drew the grand chariot between both armies before Bhishma, Drona, and all the chieftains of the earth. The Lord then said, O Partha, behold the Kauravas assembled here for battle. There, within both armies, Arjuna saw paternal and maternal elders, grandfathers, teachers, brothers, sons, grandsons, fathers-in-law, friends, and other well-wishers. Seeing his kinsmen present on the battlefield, Arjuna, the son of Kunti, was grief-stricken and overcome with pity. He said, O Krishna, seeing all these relatives and friends assembled and eager for battle, the strength is draining from my limbs and my mouth feels parched. I am trembling and the hairs on my body are standing on end. My skin is burning and I am losing grip of my Gandiva bow. O Keshava, I cannot maintain my composure any longer. My mind is disturbed and I see bad omens.
Wow. Vedavyas is drawing a very, very vivid scene, really drawing us in, right? I think we're all feeling Arjuna right now. I mean, just imagine what a difficult situation, right? Facing this battlefield, and you've got friends and relatives on both sides, right? Not just on your own side, but on the enemy side. What an intensely challenging moment for Arjuna. Very difficult, very difficult. So we can all understand, right? It's very easy to understand. Elders, grandfathers, and another thing we have to remember too is like this will be difficult for anyone, but particularly in the Indian culture, like your elder family members, they're like guru. They're considered like the father is a type of guru, and elders in the family, they're considered like a type of guru. There's so much respect for elders and relatives. So it's particularly difficult from that consideration. Okay, well, does anyone else want to share any thoughts or has a question, or should we just carry on? Maybe we'll get through the first chapter today. And then in this next verse coming up, Arjuna is expressing this noble sentiment, right? I don't need anything. I don't need victory. I don't need a kingdom, right? He has no selfish motives in his actions. So he's saying like, I don't require any of the fruits that would come from being victorious in such a battle. Okay, let's see how this is going to develop. So we're picking up 31.
न च श्रेयोनुपश्यामि हत्वा स्वजनमाहवे न काङ्क्षे विजयं कृष्ण न च राज्यं सुखाञ्च किं नो राज्येन गोविन्द किं भोगैर्जीवितेन वा येषामर्थे काङ्क्षितं नो राज्यं भोगा सुखानि च त इमेव स्थिता युद्धे प्राणां त्यक्त्वा धनानि च आचार्याः पितरः पुत्रास्तथैव च पितामहः मातुलः श्वशुरः पौत्राः शल्याः सम्बन्धिनस्तथा एतान् न हन्तुमिच्छामि घ्नतोऽपि मधुसूदनः अपि त्रैलोक्यराज्यस्य हेतुः किं न मही कृते निहत्य धातराष्ट्रान्न का प्रतिष्ठा जनार्दन पापमेवाश्रयेदस्मान् हत्वैता नातुतायिनः तस्मन्नरहा वयं हन्तुं धातराष्ट्रान् स्वबान्धवान् सजनं हि कथं हत्वा सुखिनः श्याम माधव यद्यपेते न पश्यन्ति लोभोपहत चेतसः कुलक्षय कृतं दोषं मित्रद्रोही च पातकं कथं न ज्ञेयमस्माभिः पापादस्मान् निवर्तितुं कुलक्षय कृतं दोषं प्रपश्यद्भिर्जनार्दन कुलक्षय प्रणश्यन्ति कुलधर्मा सनातना धर्मे नस्ति कुलं कृष्णम अधर्मो विभवत्तुतः अधर्माभिभवात् कृष्ण प्रदुष्यन्ति कुलस्त्रियः त्रिषु दुष्टासु वार्ष्णेय जायते वर्णशंकर शंकरो नरकायैव कुलग्राणां कुलस्य च पतन्ति पितरो झेषां लुप्तपिण्डोदकक्रिया.
Okay, I went a little over to verse 41 there. So, Marie, do you want to read those verses?
Yeah, I can. We started at
31.
31 and we went to 41.
That's right.
Okay. I do not see any good in killing my kinsmen in this battle, O Krishna. I have no wish for victory or to enjoy a kingdom. O Govinda, if those for whom we desire all this, teachers, paternal and maternal elders, sons, grandfathers, fathers-in-law, grandsons, brothers-in-law, and other relatives are about to risk their wealth and lives in battle, of what value is our kingdom and its royal pleasures, or even life itself? O Madhusudan, I do not wish to kill them, even though I myself may be killed. O Janardhan, even if we gain sovereignty over the three worlds, not to speak of ruling the earth, how can we be happy if we kill the sons of Dhritarashtra? Only sin will befall us if we slay our teachers and guardians, though they be our adversaries. We cannot take the lives of our own relatives, the sons of Dhritarashtra. O Madhava, how can we be happy by killing our kinsmen? Although they, overwhelmed with greed, cannot see the sin of betraying one's friends and destroying the dynasty, O Janardhan, how can we not refrain from this heinous act, being in full knowledge of the consequences? With the decline of the dynasty, its religious traditions are lost. When religious practices are lost, irreligion overcomes the entire dynasty. O Krishna, descendant of the Vrishni dynasty, when the dynasty is thus overcome by irreligion, the women of the family become corrupt, and adulterated progeny is the result. Adulterated progeny forces both the family and its aggressors into a hellish existence. The same fate befalls their ancestors, because regular offerings of food and water to them cease. Kind of interesting they're blaming the women. Like they had nothing to do with it.
No comments.
I think I've heard this story before, but
But I mean, some of these comments that Arjuna is making, they you know, it's easy to sympathize, right? And he's making some good points here, and making some quite noble statements, right? He's saying this particularly here, this verse 32 to 34, he's saying, you know, even if they want to kill me, even if I am killed, like I don't want to kill them. Right? There are some of his arguments, they're quite noble. Right? We can appreciate some of these sentiments, and saying like the persons for whom we would want, like whatever we would attain in this battle, you know, it would be for the pleasure of these persons who are going to risk their lives, right? So what's the point of it all? So, you know, it's easy to sympathize with some of these expressions of Arjuna. Okay. I think we're going to finish the chapter. There's not much left here.
दोषैरेतैः कुलज्ञानां वर्णशङ्करकारकैः उत्सद्यन्ते जातिधर्मः कुलधर्माश्च शाश्वताः उत्सन्नकुलधर्माणां मनुष्याणां जनार्दन नरके नियतं वासो भवति तनु शुश्रुम अहो बत महत्पापं कर्तुं व्यवसिता वयं यद्राज्यसुखलोभेन हन्तुं स्वजनमुद्यता यदि माम् अप्रतिकार अशस्त्रं शस्त्रपाणय धातराष्ट्रा रणे हन्तु तन्मे क्षेमतरं भवे संजय उवाच एवं मुक्तार्जुनः शङ्खे रथोपस्थ उपाविशत् विसृज्य सशरं चापं शोकसङ्गविघ्नमानसः इति श्रीमहाभारते शतसाहस्रां संहितायां वैयासिकां भीष्मपर्वणि श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासूपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे सैन्यदर्शनं नाम प्रथमोऽध्यायः.
Okay, so we've come to the end of the first chapter. It's so wonderful going through this all again.
श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवारादि श्री गौर भक्त वृंद.
So let's chant those verses together, picking up from 42. Doshetai kula gnanam varna sankara karakaihi utsadyante jati dharma kula dharmaste shashvataha utsana kula dharmanam manushyanam janardana narake niyatam vaso bhavatityanu Aho bata mahatpapam kartam yavisata vayam yadnajya sukanu antum sarjanam yataha yadimam rapatikadam ashastram shastrapanayaha dhartarashtradaneham tanme kshemataram bhavet Sanjaya vacha evam bhuktva Arjuna sanke rato pasta upavishat Vishijya sasharam chapam choka samvikmanasaha. Okay. So one thing I wanted to mention, I forgot, I meant to mention it before. If you listen, like when our Gurudev is chanting the Sanskrit, you see how because he's very familiar with Sanskrit and also with this whole discourse, right? And he's a pure Vaishnava also. But what you'll see if you listen is that he's really following like the intonation, like he's following the subject matter, you know, like the way, like if we're reading an English book and you put like, you know, you're expressing different emotions and putting emphasis in different points according to what's being expressed. You hear that our Gurudev is reading the Sanskrit in a very fluid way, you know, with the intonation that you could imagine that Arjuna would express with, right? Like it sounds like a conversation, right? It's not like, you know, when I'm chanting, it's kind of like just like, you know, ritualistic chanting of the verses. But if you pay attention to the way our Gurudev chants the Sanskrit, it's like you feel there's a conversation going on. And I can hear, like, for example, when Arjuna was asking that question, our Gurudev's expressing it with the intonation of a question. It's very charming. If you pay attention, you'll hear it. So so 42, right? Such heinous acts by the destroyers of the dynasty are the cause of adulterated progeny, ruining the culture of a civilized society, noble lineage. O Janardhan, we've heard that persons whose familial, social, and religious traditions are disrupted dwell always in hell. Alas, what a grave sin we have resolved to commit. Driven by greed for trifling royal happiness, we are about to slay our own kinsmen. If unarmed and unresisting, I am killed on this battlefield by the armed sons of Dhritarashtra, that would be more auspicious for me. Sanjaya said, there on the battlefield, speaking these words, Arjuna cast aside his bow and arrows and sat down on the chariot, his heart filled with sadness. So are we crying yet? Are you feeling Arjuna's pain? What nobility is being expressed here. I would rather die, that would be happier for me than to have to raise my weapons against my kinsmen. And it's very dramatic, like this Sanskrit here, this aho bata mahat papam hartam vyavasita vayam. This aho, it's like an exclamation, like this alas, alas. And mahat pa means like great sin, maha sin. A great sin. What a horrendous, extraordinary sin we are about to commit. It's very, and he's, we also know, like, he's not telling the full story. He's kind of like putting himself in the position of some greedy, selfish person. He's showing, one perspective in this mood of like humility. We know it's a much more complicated situation than what he's saying here. Driven by greed for trifling royal happiness, we're about to slay your own kinsmen. It feels quite Shakespearean, doesn't it? Well, let's see. We've still got 15 minutes left. Does anyone want to share any thoughts or suggestions for these last 15 minutes, or do you want to go on to the next chapter? How is Krishna going to respond? Marie has her hand raised.
Yeah, I have had a few thoughts. One is that the party that would have these thoughts is the party that you want to rule. So, he's sitting there like, a kingdom isn't worth this, but that's exactly why the battle has to take place. And then the other thought I had was, it's trying to escape now. Was that basically this is what every general, every person who's ever been to war eventually, hopefully, figures out, if they're paying attention, is that you can't do it without killing innocent people who just want to live their lives and do their jobs. And if they're really aware, you realize that they're not different from you, and that that we're all related. And so ultimately he's just basically saying, war is hell because you're always going to kill your relatives of some degree, and you're always going to be killing innocent people. And who wants to do that?
Right.
And it's interesting because, like, there are basically two ways to convince people to fight a war for you. And one is to convince them that the enemy is really exactly the same as you, and so they should be under your government. And the other one is to convince them that the enemy is nothing like you. But like, it doesn't happen in between. It's usually one or the other. If you want to get someone riled up enough to kill, you either convince them that they're killing someone who's exactly the same, or it's someone who's completely different. So it's interesting that he's sitting here going, they're completely the same. And it's like, well, yeah, that's how war works. I love that that's the frame for this.
Those are some nice reflections, and it kind of gives me this angle, right, that like Arjuna is expressing like a healthy sentiment, right, of someone who's been driven to the point of going to war, right, that he's having a healthy dose of self-doubt and questioning, is this really necessary, feeling compassion, for the other side. And Gangalila, anything you'd like to share? Any reflections? Anglila always has some nice
No,
insight.
I'm here. I don't. I'm actually, I just completely recoiled from looking at the reality of war, because it's you know, it's somewhere right now. There's war in the country over here, in the country over there, and my heart is closing basically to, like, yeah, that's a natural thing to do, because we're talking about it like it's a natural thing to do,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and I'm just not feeling it. So, because
Mm-hmm.
you're also saying, like, are you feeling Arjuna? Yes, I do feel him. So I'm not there yet. I'm still just where he is right now. Like, how can you possibly?
Right, right,
That's all I got.
right. Very nice. Yeah, I mean, Vedavyas does a very good job of describing Arjuna's, sentiments, that moment, and pulling on our heartstrings, and like we feel like we're there. It's a very, very vivid, powerful description. The whole scene is portrayed, very, very clearly. And yeah, it can be difficult to accommodate, this whole background of Bhagavad Gita. I see Danny has his hand raised. Love to hear from you, Danny.
Hey, Hare Krishna.
Hey.
Um, my reflection is small. I just like about this chapter that Arjuna knows how to call Krishna in many different ways, like Govinda, the one who gives pleasure to the senses, and Madhusudana, the one who kills Madhu, Janardana, the one who is the protector. So, and Krishna also calls him Arjuna and Partha and so on. So it shows how close friends they were. Like they could have this conversation. It's a deep conversation that you wouldn't be able to have with just anyone. And the fact that they can call themselves, or they can call each other by different names that mean different things, just shows how devoted they were, each one to the other.
That's a very nice reflection, Danny. I love that, because actually this is one of the most significant points of Bhagavad Gita, which often gets overlooked. Like just the fact of this loving relationship between the Lord and his devotee. Right? The fact that Krishna is acting as the chariot driver, right? He's the chauffeur of his devotee. Like that's one of the most significant points of the whole of Bhagavad Gita. Like this is where you actually find rasa, right? There's like some taste, there's some flavor, right? This in relationship. Right. And this is in the background that's there. And yes, it is very beautiful to see these different names, which they're calling each other. All of these names have different meanings. And I keep meaning to bring it out, and I never do. Maybe I will try to do it next week. But one of our Vaishnava commentators, Vishwanath Chakravarti, in his commentary, he's actually given some explanation, why, because there's some meaning why in each case they're being called a specific name, and it's Vishwanath Chakravarti. He gives some explanation about that in his commentary in Bhagavad Gita. So that would be very nice to bring up. There are so many layers of Bhagavad Gita, and they, as we are, and this is one of the wonderful things about reading and rereading, right? That where something new, something fresh is coming out each time. So I love that reflection, Danny. Thank you for sharing.
I have something. I don't know how to do the hand yet.
Oh, Kelly.
I just want to say that I'm applying it to the personal level, that you know, when you have to actually face evil and fight somebody, like, for example, I own some rentals and I've had to evict people that were dealing drugs, and it just rips your heart out because, you know, you get to know their kids, and you get to know how you knew how they were when they first came, and they were super nice, and but then you have to step up to the plate because everybody else in the complex is, you know, threatened by them, and you know, you have to protect the rest of the people. And but I find that even when I have to go to battle, it's still killing me. It's still like I you know, I feel so bad for that family, and you know, so I just think that whenever we are forced to use our sort of warring power on a personal, something personal in our lives, it's just always a mess. It just always kills you. So I just want to make that comment.
That's a really beautiful reflection, Kelly. I really love that. It's something I've been reflecting on actually from a slightly different angle, but I love this angle kind of develops on it more. How like those with the saintly heart, you know, with the magnanimous developed heart, there's this deep empathy, right, in everything. And even when it's necessary, like it's the Dharma, right? You have to do something.
Right.
So there's still going to be that feeling of empathy there, right? And I see in some similar example is we see that in Lord Chaitanya, right? You know, Lord Chaitanya, he in his life in this world, he went through this pastime. Like first he was like a householder, he had a family life, and then he ended up taking up the sannyas order, the order of renunciation. And as a result of that, he had to leave behind his family. But you see how he's like, there's this pain that he has and having to give pain to his family and his old friends. And it's not like there's this arrogance, but like in one place he's expressing this mood, oh, I've been such a terrible son, abandoning my mother, you know, like not like expressing this arrogant mood, like, oh, I'm a great sannyasi, now I'm leaving behind my family life. But he's expressing this pain, like, oh, I've been a terrible son, you know, or he gives up teaching his students Sanskrit, because when he starts showing this mood of divine love, then he was like this renowned Sanskrit teacher. People would travel from all over to learn from him. But when he started showing this mood of divine love, he couldn't teach anymore. He just started explaining everything to mean Krishna. You know, like he couldn't teach proper Sanskrit grammar anymore. But it mentions it's mentioned that he felt this pain in his heart, like he wasn't able to give them what they wanted. And it wasn't that he had this arrogance and, you know, oh, I'm going on to something higher, you're all in Maya, you're all in illusion. But he's, oh, I'm sorry, I can't fulfill what you want, right? And so this is like taking it a step further. It's like someone's creating disturbance, someone is off of the path, deviant from the path of Dharma, and we have to establish the Dharma. But even in that, there will be someone with a compassionate heart, they will still feel some pain, right? Like if you have to put someone in prison, you know, but this is the thing, right? Like it's healthy to feel that compassion. But if that takes you to a point of not carrying out the Dharma, that's unhealthy, right? It's like you had, like it's necessary to reluctantly uphold the Dharma, like a healthy soul will reluctantly uphold the Dharma in certain circumstances, right? Because it would be unhealthy and inappropriate to do otherwise, right? So it's an interesting point. I love that example of being forced to evict, you know, troublesome tenants. Nice real life example, because many people, because it's very easy to go too weak either side, right? To be too strong, like in a kind of like you know, like, you know, with lack of empathy, like heartlessly. That's not healthy, to just heartlessly establish the Dharma. And on the other hand, to be too weak and just be overly compassionate, that's not helping anyone either, right? So it's quite a funny thing, isn't it, to find just right middle path, right? Very nice reflection. I see a Gangalila had her hand raised.
And then she lowered it because she said exactly what I felt, what I was seeing. But my words were like, also, like you said, healthy quite a lot, because that's exactly what I noticed. It is a healthy human being. So I'm reading the Gita and I want to identify with him. And hopefully I'm healthy so that I have some kind of mental faculty, some intellectual faculty, but I also really must have a cultivated heart connection to identify. So I think often also if you watch American movies or German movies, World War II, they are portrayed, the soldier is portrayed as a heartless person, and they are better off because they're just kind of the instruments of the order, and therefore they're checking out their intellect. They should know better sort of part, and they are trying to disconnect from the heart, so they're very unhealthy, and they're portrayed like that. And then there's always the turn. If it was a movie, there would be the turn that maybe a soldier is falling apart and he's all just a holy mess, and he can't fight anymore. But so yeah, that's exactly also what I saw. And I also really like Kelly's example, like that's how it is in our lives, like that we have to not separate that and be too hard, be only mentally like head oriented, or too soft in the heart, like you were already saying. So basically I noticed totally the same thing. Hare Krishna.
You've reminded me of this one. It's a story. Srila Prabhupada Swami Maharaj told it, and I think it's included in some collection of like fables or something. And it's of this young man. He's raised by his aunt, I believe. Maybe someone will remember this story in the group. I believe he's raised by his aunt because his parents passed away very early. But his he had some unhealthy behaviors, but his aunt was very, very soft on him, and he was a very troubled child. He got into all sorts of problems and created trouble, and he got to a point where he committed murder, and he ended up in prison. And it's described that this is supposed to be a true story. It's described, but I don't know the details of the exact era and so on. But then there was one occasion where his aunt came and visited him in prison, and he said something very softly, and she couldn't hear. And he said, "Come closer." And so he came and he put his ear. She came and put her ear against between the bars, and he ripped her ear off very, very aggressively. And he told her, "This is your fault. This is your fault. You did not raise me properly, and you allowed me to get into this trouble. Like, you didn't discipline me, you didn't train me, and now you've allowed me to come to this point." And then he treated her in that way, in such a violent, nasty way. So it's a challenging thing, right? But to be neglectful of following the Dharma, that is a type of crime, actually. So although it may be with some reluctance, some compassion, it is healthy, right, to have that compassion in the heart. At the same time, it must be done. That's our responsibility, actually. We have some responsibility to our environment. Srila Sridhar Maharaj expresses it in that way. Like, if something comes before us and we're in a position to adjust that in the proper way, and we don't, then a large part of that fault comes to us, right? This is mentioned in the scriptures. So anyway, very nice reflections from our group here, and great to see all of those who joined. I see Murari's with us, tuning in from United Kingdom. Julian's here, and Lynn also tuned in. Wonderful group today. Any final words, or should we close there for today? We'll end on a cliffhanger. How's Krishna going to respond? Okay. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Jai Shri Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai, Shri Bhakti Raksha Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. All the assembled devotees ki Jai, all the world devotees ki Jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki Jai, Shri Hari Nam Sankirtan Jai. Jai Gaur Premanand. Haribol. See you all next time.
Vishaka Didi ki jai.
Jai.